folks, and welcome to another vid. Today what I thought I'd do is share with you the way I like to change a tyre on our 4motion Refitting machine. Now you might be wondering why I'd like to show you how to change a tyre, because everybody knows how to change a tyre, right? Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but what I thought I'd do is just go through the process, talk about some of the safety things I like to do, and just talk to you about how to take this spare wheel out of the back of the van. Okay, I'm going to go through what we carry in the van to make tyre changing safe. Now the first thing is, when you've discovered you've got a flat tyre, you do need to make sure you're safe. And what I mean by that is, where you've parked may not necessarily be the safest place for you to change that tyre. So whilst the tyre is flat, don't be scared if it's a matter of safety to drive a short distance to a place where it is safe. It could be around a bend, around a flat, whatever it might be. And if you have to get a passenger in the vehicle to warn other motorists that you're there, then you should do that as well. The other thing you want to do is just stop and think about what's going on and have a bit of an action plan about what you're going to do. Now you might have to ball the billy, as they say, and have a think about it. There's plenty of time. Always err on the side of safety and take your time. So once you've had a think about things and you got yourself safe, you know, if it's hot, put a hat on. And I like to carry water obviously with us. Keep hydrated. If it's cold, keep warm. Make sure you preserve yourself, because the last thing you want to do is cause a bigger problem just by having a flat tyre, and it can happen. Alright, so just on safety, I like to carry gloves, and the reason I carry gloves is, you know, if you get a cut while you're working away, I've actually got one right here, what you can do is get an infection, and if you're on a long trip, the last thing you want to do is have an infection. So cover up with a set of gloves. I've got some mechanical gloves I carry as well, and they're a bit finer, so it allows me to work on finer things, but I always carry those. I've got a base plate, and the reason I have a base plate is that if you're on a surface that isn't firm, it could be sand, it could be mud, it could be, you know, dirt, then this is a great place to mount that jack to get your job done. Our van comes with a hydraulic jack, and this is a 2000 kg jack, and the reason this is a bigger jack is because we have a GVM upgrade in our van, so obviously the van has to come with a jack that can handle the weight of the van. Now this also has a mounting plate that fits perfectly on our 2017 Transporter, and I'll show you those that jack point on the van later. Our van comes with a box socket, and this obviously changes the wheel nuts, but it's also going to be used to take this spare tyre off the back, which I'll show you down the track. I carry a socket though, a 19mm socket, which replaces the need of this box socket, but I still carry it just in case. And with this, I complement it with a torque wrench, because with this, it's going to help me take those nuts off, and I also torque this up to 130 Newton metre, which is what the book recommends being the right tension for those wheel nuts. So this is really important, and you get that from any super cheap or Autobarn or anything like that. So really good idea to carry one of these. I also carry a tyre pressure gauge, and I've got a real big one here from ARB so I can see. Very, very accurate, and obviously this is a really good thing to carry irrespective of whether you need to change a tyre. We've also got an Allen key, because on our Trackadoo all-terrain, there's a little cap over the wheel nuts, so I've got one of them, and I've also got some spare ones just in case I lose that. And finally, I've got a ground sheet so that I can place this down on the ground in case it's dirty and muddy and I don't get myself dirty, and I can also insulate myself if it's cold. I can stay away from the crawlies, the insects, and stay safe. Okay, so I'm at the tyre. We're going to assume that this tyre is now flat. What I'm going to do is, using the Allen key, is take this cap off here. And when that comes off, as you can see the wheel nuts in there. Okay, so we've taken the cap off. Now here's the important part. Whatever you take off, you put it in your pocket so you don't lose these things, because they can easily get lost, and if it's in your pocket, they're not going anywhere. We've got the cap off. Before we do anything here, we're just going to place the jack at the proper jacking point so we're ready for action. Okay, so you can see under the car here we've got the jacking point. This is at the rear, And you can see here the mount on top of the jack. It's going to fit perfectly in that spot. So what I'm now going to do is just get the jack to take some tension on the vehicle, but I'm not going to lift it all the way up. I've already put it in position with the jacking point. Now I'm going to put this jacking bar here. Now, just before I do that, on this jack, you've got a little pin here, and we're going to make sure that that is tight, and we turn it clockwise. That way, when I start pumping this up, the hydraulic oil will work, and it's going to lift this jack. We've got that there. And we start. We've got this jack now in position, and before we do anything further, we want to make sure we do a triple check that the vehicle's in park, the handbrake is on, and you've chocked a wheel to make sure that if anything happens and this jack happens to fall off this jacking point, the vehicle's not going to go anywhere too far. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to take the spare off. Now, this is a little bit tricky. You do need to have a little bit of strength. It's also quite a messy job, and if you've got, you know, a back problem, or you've got an issue getting down like this, if you don't know how to do this, you won't be able to show someone else how to do it. So it's a good idea all round just to know how to do it. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. There are two bolts down here. We've got a, they call this, the first one's a retaining bolt, and then they've got a securing bolt. So the one on the left, as you face the vehicle from the back, is the retaining bolt. And what we want to do with that is just loosen that. So I'm going to use my my torque wrench because I can. Otherwise, obviously, you could use your box spanner. But this just makes it so much easier. And I'm just going to loosen that, but not remove it. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is actually totally remove the securing pins. Okay, there you go. Bolts out. I'm going to put this in my pocket straight away so I don't lose it. And now the fun begins. So we're going to now lift this up a bit so that it comes up a bit, and then with the retaining bolt in place, it allows me to just lift it slightly using this box spanner in here. So I'm going to lift it a bit, and then I'm going to slide it out to the right, to the driver's side, and that should drop this tyre, we hope. Now, sometimes you have to engage the services of a persuader. I think they call that the doctor. So we're just going to give that a bit of a tap across, and down that tyre will come. And there you go. That wasn't too hard now, was it? No. Righto, we've got the spare off. What I'm now going to do with that is stick it underneath the vehicle, so that in the unlikely event the jack fails, when this tyre's off, it won't fall down and cause damage. So I'll do that now. Right, I'm happy with that. Righto, now that we've got the spare wheel underneath the vehicle, we're ready to start loosening our wheel nuts and just removing the tension there as we jack the vehicle up. So, with this box spanner that comes with the vehicle, if I tried to do that myself, it's pretty hard. So the best way to do that, if you're in this situation, I'm just going to stand up now. You'll probably lose sight of me, but I'm going to put my heel on the back of this box spanner and facing away from it so I don't do damage to the machine or any other part of my body. So I'll just put my heel on the back of that and just stand up. And as you can see, that was really easy. That's the safest way to do it if you don't have something like a torque wrench. But because I've got a torque wrench, I'll just go about loosening those up. And once I've got them loose, I'm ready to start jacking the vehicle. So I'll do that now. Righto, now I've lifted the tyre up. Now I'm not going to take the tyre off and replace it for the purpose of this demonstration, but I just want to cover off on a couple of things. I've got the jacking plate in place to help me lift up the vehicle. If I still couldn't get this tyre off, I could use a shovel to dig underneath the soil to make more room. Because remember, this tyre is going to be flat, that one's going to be inflated. So you've got to make sure you lift this up high enough for the spare wheel to go in. Once you take all those nuts off, put them in your pocket, you're going to put the other wheel on, then you're going to put your spare, the one now that's damaged, I should say, underneath the vehicle in the same way until you totally finish re-securing the nuts. Now, the wheel. Now when you put these back on, you put them on diagonally and you tighten them up. You tighten them up enough, not to the full torque, but just enough to get them nice and tight. And then you drop your jack and you move on to securing these nice and tight. Now, let's assume we've put this spare wheel on. I'm going to do things in reverse. So I'm going to tighten this up just enough so that they're nice and tight, but not to the proper torque, or in the case that you've just got this box spanner, really tight. And I've done that. I'm now happy with that. I've got this tyre now underneath the vehicle the same way. I'm going to lower this jack now, and the way I'm going to lower it, down the bottom there's a little valve. You just turn that valve anti-clockwise and the vehicle will drop. We're nice and safe. And you need to just push down on that hydraulic arm to get down, like that. And then this here, we just push right down to get it back in position. And then you just tighten up the valve so it's ready to go for the next time. Now that I've lowered it back down, what I'm going to do now is tighten these wheel nuts. Now, as I mentioned, if you have only got this box spanner, tighten them really tight. How tight's that? Really tight. But because I've got this torque wrench, when I lift it up, it'll click, and that's the right amount of torque that we need. So I'll do that diagonally opposite, and I go all the way around. And I know that this now is not going anywhere. But what I will do, in about 1 kilometre, I'll pull up again when I'm driving, and I'm going to re-tighten it to make sure. And about 10 kilometres later, I'm going to do the same thing. So keep this out when you pack everything away. And the other thing I'm going to do with that damaged tyre, I'm going to get it checked obviously by a tyre expert, make sure it's right to go for the next trip. And I'm also going to get them to double check that I've tightened this properly. So you really should go to your nearest tyre repair place when you've damaged a tyre to make sure you're safe for your travels. Never take a risk with these things. This is your safety. That's really, really important. Now the fun bit, I've got to put that spare tyre back in, and I will show you that because it can get tricky, and sometimes you might even have to use your jack to lift it up to get into position. So let's have a look at that. Righto, now the fun bit, got to put this tyre back in. Now I'm going to put it in the same way it came out, which means the hollow bit is going to be facing up in the vehicle. And the way I'm going to do this, I've got the securing nut ready to go. I'm going to slide it onto the bracket. Now you do need to have a little bit of strength for this. Once that's in position, now we're going to lift this bracket up with the tyre. So you can imagine it's a little bit heavy. Lift it up. I'm going to use my leg. Now this is playing up, so I'm going to use the jack to lift it up. What I've done, I'll put the jack on the actual spare tyre, lifted the spare tyre up to allow me to move that bracket into place. Now that's in place, I use the retaining pin now to get some pressure off it. And that jack, this actual bracket will now hold the tyre up. Get that in position. We'll get our bolt, securing bolt in place. There we go, folks. Now look, I'm not going to lie to you, that was a little bit challenging. And you know, if you're out in the bush and you were doing something like this, you can see how it can certainly take a bit out of you. So good idea to practice at home. Keep your fluids up, stay nice and hydrated, or if it's cold, stay nice and warm, although you wouldn't have too much problem keeping warm if you're doing something like that. But you know, a simple tyre can cause you a bit of grief, but at least now you've got a little bit of an idea how to do it, and I encourage you to practice it. As I said, if not, you can certainly show someone how to do it. Righto, for now I'm going to pack all this stuff up, get ready for the next adventure, all for the love of travel.